Good evening, and welcome to Me, My Scotch, and I. I am Ogie Schottenfeld, and we are on the Spanglish Sports World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo app from either the iOS or Android App Store. The app is free. Make sure you leave ratings in the comments when you do. The Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku, and Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and newer.
It's a show with Obi and his rockin' hat. If this was the 90s, he would be all that. It's me, my Scotch, and I. 'Cause Obi is the guy. Obi is the guy.
Thank you, Michael Rochelle of the Shady Tree Mechanics. Last week, we saw the NFL end its season about as well as Game of Thrones. Today, we are going to turn away from talk of goats and Father Time and look at some young men just starting out. We'll be joined by Eric Biggio in just a moment. Everyone watching the show has a Eric in their life. You call him Commish. He's either setting up your fantasy leagues or your March Madness pool. Eric got me into my first rotisserie. That's right, rotisserie, not fantasy baseball league. And it was only appropriate that we'd make his living now working in Vegas at a sportsbook desk.
How's it going, Obi?
It's good. How are you, Eric?
Doing well. And yourself?
Good. Thank you very much for joining us on our first show. We're going to focus a little bit on the March Madness, specifically Duke and Kentucky not being there after having been the dominant teams since we've gone to the one and done era in 2006. Duke's made it to the Final Four twice, winning both times. Kentucky's Final Four 4 times, winning once. These two teams have dominated not only in the tournament, but also in the NBA. You got players like Davis, Rondo, Adebayo, and Hero, all representing Kentucky just last year. So what are your thoughts on why these guys have all of a sudden slowed down after both having top 5 recruiting classes yet again?
There's an article I was looking at on the Times where these one and dones, as you mentioned, they really need guys like Calipari and Krzyzewski. They really need the time during the summer to train up these guys and extra practice time, which obviously during this year, the pandemic wasn't available to them. So they've kind of been trial by fire with these young guys. So I think it's a little bit, took them a little bit longer to get going, but I'm real happy to see on my side. I mean, I root for Rutgers, grew up in New Jersey, and it's great to see them higher ranked than Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina, all the traditional blue bloods. So it's refreshing to see.
I was going to get to Rutgers much later, but I do wonder with the guys who are not going to go pro, go in and where am I going to go for a few years? And New Jersey being such an incredible basketball state, how many guys are going to be like, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to maybe go to the pros, and after year 4, I'll stay at home. I think the opportunity for Rutgers is amazing.
I completely agree, and I've always thought that Rutgers was a sleeping giant for especially for college basketball. Football is a little tougher because you need 20 guys to get your program going. But for hoops, you need 3 or 4 solid players, and you can be right up there. And Jersey's always had great talent for college basket, so it's only natural that they finally get up and rolling.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up in the days of St. Anthony's just dominating the sport throughout the country, but as a high school team, and it's just like, and then they went and played at Duke, and then they went and played in North Carolina, and it'd be nice if we could keep them at home now.
I'm not sure if you remember our senior year way back when Pat Sullivan, that played at Bogota, went on to play at North Carolina. He was in the famous game when Chris Webber called the timeout for Michigan against Carolina, and so
made some foul shots right after that.
That's it.
If I
Exactly
recall
right.
correctly. Yes,
Exactly right.
absolutely remember Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that you've already dated yourself, you were at UMass when Calipari was there, correct?
I was. I've always, obviously when I was there, I rooted for them, and they had a great team with Marcus Camby and Lou Rowe. They were pretty stocked. Never biggest fan of Calipari though, so I've never really rooted for him. Just kind of his one and done tactics. I think it's kind of hurt the college basketball game.
Yes, I agree, and I'm curious. I have some thoughts. I'm not even sure if I fully furnished my thoughts. Now that one and done is over again, and you can't say, "Hey, these guys aren't getting paid," because they can't get paid because they have to go to college. If this is going to speed up or slow down what I think is inevitable in my lifetime, college players getting paid in some way. I do know that in the early odds, I thought every top 10 pick was a high school kid, but I went back and looked and it was only like 15%. So I was actually surprised how few. We're talking some of the greats, LeBron, Howard, 17-year-old Andrew Bynum, but it was still a much smaller number. And I'm just curious, any thoughts on if this is going to propel in either direction, these kids getting paid?
Boy, that's a slippery slope. It's where do the colleges look and say, okay, the revenue generating programs are college basketball, football, maybe some baseball. Do you pay those guys, or do you pay the water polo team as well? Do you pay So I think only to be fair, you have to pay everybody. You have to pay every program a portion, and so if you and I have no problem with them paying. I think they should be paid some kind of stipend, some kind of the argument against it is, well, they get the free scholarship. Kind of yes, but how much money do they make proportionally for these schools? Far outweighs any kind of scholarship. Like you mentioned, the kids that played at Duke and Kentucky, how much do these schools make for a Final Four run, or in college football when they're in these college bowl games? So I think it's only fair eventually to pay them something.
And you bring up one of the points against paying these kids, which is the water polo team is probably costing the school money. And when you start to look at the sports as a whole, yes, the basketball players and the football players are paying for the water polo players. So what do? Do you not pay the water polo players? And another point is, at Duke, it's what, $60,000 a year? And if you get a full ride there, does Rutgers, and you go to the other kid goes to Rutgers in 25, then do you pay each kid X money, or does Rutgers, have to pay more to keep up or less to keep up? So it is a very dangerous, I don't want to use the word dangerous, wrought with complicated scenarios.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Definitely a good way to put it. Yeah, I don't envy the guys that need to make the decisions there, because it's gonna come to a head eventually.
Yes. Staying with the college kids, but going back to the sport. Given a choice between Baylor or Gonzaga winning this thing, and I don't see either of them winning without going undefeated, because they have nothing left to lose. There's no one else in either of their conferences.
Yeah.
Or the field, who do you like?
That's a great question, actually. I think there was a prop bet in town for that exact Baylor, Gonzaga, or the field. I personally like Baylor. I think they're pretty battle tested. They have great guard play. That is huge in tournament time. You just rely on your point guards, and they kind of control the flow of the game and everything along with it. So I really do like Baylor. Outside, kind of some outsiders, I think Illinois can rumble. Houston can battle a little bit. So those are the ones. If I was putting a few bucks on, I would look at kind of Illinois and Houston as the outsiders.
You're not gonna put it on that hometown Rutgers, huh?
I'll root for them. Maybe to. I think, let me look to make the Final Four. I think I'd seen about 15 or 20 to 1, which might be worth a shot.
All right. Maybe in my $5 bracket.
There you go.
All right. Now, to completely change gears, I know a subject that you and I both hold near and dear is our New York Mets. Which move other than Lindor in the offseason most excites you?
Carrasco is a sneaky nice pickup in the same, if he's healthy, he's a solid top 1-2 kind of guy. May to bolster the bullpen, excellent. And McCann, I like Ramos as a hitter as a catcher, but he was you could see he was slowing down behind the plate. I think McCann is going to be excellent defensively and to work with the staff. So, if you get DeGrom, Syndergaard, Carrasco, Stroman, these guys healthy, boy, they're going to be tough. So I'm excited.
I got to tell you, to me, it was McCann, because especially after Real Malto signed and you saw how much money you saved, and you go, and then you're like, we can send that over to Lindor. That's a nice trade-off. Certainly was happy with that. Can't complain at all there. What was that? Oop. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay.
Sticking with the Mets.
Yeah.
This new guy that they just got in the 3-team deal. What do you think of him as a prospect? I can't even remember his name.
Khalil Lee. I think they picked up Khalil Lee.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and it was pretty impressive. I guess in the Mets, when they sent Steven Matz to the Blue Jays, they got a few kind of fringe prospects in return, and they packaged one of those fringe prospects in the deal to get kind of a top 10 prospect in Khalil Lee. So already with Sandy Alderson kind of pulling the strings, that the Mets are in good shape. So I'm excited. I'm excited with the Steve Cohen regime.
Yeah, so far it's been a relief to feel like a big market team. It's like Cohen takes out his wallet and says, "I'm here. We're here to play." I can throw money at GameStop and still throw it at the Mets. So that's important.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we don't have another Bernie Madoff type situation that brings down our ownership. But no, I feel confident with the new guys, with Steve Cohen behind the wheel.
Yeah. For all we know, he's going to end the Bobby Bonilla day and be like, here, just take it all and leave us alone. That would be something.
Yeah, you can see this is my 86 world champs. That's the only true championship I have to my name is my fandom. So that's I think they're overdue to get to win a World Series. So
that they are. We would definitely be pleased.
I think you went on mute.
Top 5 team chance to win, correct? They're
right. Yeah. They I think I'd seen about 8-1 to win the series. So they're right there with the Braves, Dodgers, Padres, and the NL and AL, those dirty Yankees. And not sure who else in the AL is going to be tough. Maybe the White Sox might come out of the loop, but the NL is going to be tough. NL East with the Braves and the Nationals, it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah. The whole NL East, it's stacked. It's like what it was in the 90s for us. Just don't want to be looking up at Atlanta any longer, though. It's always felt that way. In Piazza and Orlo Rude's days, it was always the Braves. It was never fun.
Yeah. And those Cardinals too. I always still hate the Cardinals for whatever reason. I think 85. That, again, dating myself, but never a big artist. And the Cardinals got us in 2005 as well. So never a fan of theirs.
No, it was worse in 85 when and then they went on and Coleman gets his leg all chopped up and it leaves us completely hanging. Right. Hey, hello. Hey, Frank. Nice of you. Thank you for joining us. I was happily surprised that you can make it.
It's my pleasure. I was just having a little nap.
These things happen, Frank. This is Eric Frank.
Hi, Eric. Where's your hat?
What's that?
Where's your hat?
Is that I didn't know that's a staple of the program.
I thought that was a thing here.
Well, it's a thing for me, so I'm glad you.
Eric, I'm only yanking your chain a little. That's all.
No worries, no worries.
If I take my hat off, no one will be able to see the screen with the shine that comes off my head.
That's okay. The shine's pretty good on my head.
Yes, yes.
My problem's the nose.
Yes. Hey.
It's a Roman nose. It roams all over my face.
Earlier, Frank, we were talking about the NCAA.
Okay.
And, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, what's happening with them? And both of us are out of Jersey rejoicing about Rutgers, or originally from Jersey, I should say. But the big question, I think, is Gonzaga, Baylor, or the field?
Gonzaga.
Okay. Quick. Very nice. Very nice. No prep work, just hit you up real quick on that.
How about you, Obi? Who do you
I'm definitely going to take the field because I just feel like that's always the safer thing to do.
Sure.
And I know I'm not good at picking, so might as well take the higher odds in my favor. Probably Michigan, but
there you go.
But yeah, I'm not betting anybody's house on that. Just one. I also feel a little ridiculous because going into the Super Bowl, I was like, it's going to be Kansas City, but if there's a blowout, it'll be Tampa Bay. But it's going to be Kansas City, and then that little thing in the back of my head, I didn't go with, and now I'm like, all right, now let's bet against the favorite. So we're sure it's not going to be the field.
Yeah, that was a disappointing game, huh?
Yeah, it was. But Watt moving today was a big surprise.
Do you think that has anything to do with Brady moving?
100% think he's going to end up in Tampa Bay.
And also the fact that Brady did that, and there might be, we saw this in basketball become a trend where, big names, well, look, LeBron, right? He brought people with him to different cities, right? That's a little bit of what Brady did, right?
I think it's a lot of what Brady did. I mean, you're right. Let's go with a little bit because he didn't bring a bunch of guys in their primes who could all make a bunch of money. He took a group of guys who he's played with before, have talent. He also did go to a place where there was talent. There was more than one game along the way where somebody said, Jameis Winston's going, why didn't the defense play that well for me? I could throw 3 interceptions in the second half. So, but yes, he definitely did some of that. I was looking at NBA draft picks after the Nets' big trade. And since LeBron's era, draft picks, I don't know how the Sixers are doing it, keeping their draft picks, but these guys move around after that rookie contract is over to get their championship instead of staying home. Maybe if we're lucky, the Greek Freak has changed that.
Were you surprised that he signed with them?
Yes, I was.
I was too. It really seemed like he wasn't happy with the almost getting there.
Not only that, he didn't do it in a way where he waited and said, okay, I'm not going to sign, but bring me over a big name. And then, he didn't round somebody up to come join him and then sign, whomever that somebody might be.
I don't think he has the kind of, the players that have done that have been players with, how can I put it? Not street cred, but I don't know, social cred. Does that make any sense? People who had names that even are bigger than basketball. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but not just anybody can go make a phone call and say, hey, look, I'm going to Cleveland. You want to come along with me? It takes a special kind of person to convince other special people to make a move.
especially in a place like Cleveland or Milwaukee. It's a lot easier when you're Kawhi to get PG to come to LA, or even LeBron.
Yeah,
He went to
absolutely.
Miami.
I was being a little sarcastic using the name Cleveland because, you know, that's the other point I was trying to make in a subtle kind of way. Where you go matters too. Like when LeBron went to Miami, he wasn't going to Cleveland. He left Cleveland to go to Miami. Miami's not a bad place to go.
No, he was taking his talents to South Beach, and South Beach is a great place to go.
But he took our Toronto guy with him. So, you know, that didn't make us happy.
No, well, the whole team went to South Beach.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Eric, I'm going to go to your world specifically.
Sure.
Because of the bubbles and the home field advantages are declining, is that changing how you're making numbers and what's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Especially with a team like Toronto.
Yeah, 100%. It's especially in NFL. You know, it was traditionally 3 points for the home team was kind of baked into the point spread. That had to be adjusted a little bit because home field really wasn't a big factor for NFL this year. NBA, I'm not sure how it's really affecting it. I mean, there's still aspects of travel that these guys have to deal with, especially if they're playing back-to-back nights and doing, you know, flying coast to coast. So it's still, I think it still kind of goes into the number, but especially in the playoffs, that's, I think, where you see home court really matter the most in NBA when the crowd and kind of referees start piling on. I think that's going to be the biggest kind of difference in the number. We're going to go basically more on the power ratings instead of factoring in the home court. So it's just traditionally, if you're looking at you match up your top teams, your Lakers, Clippers, you know, whomever else, and you just go straight by the power ratings. You don't really look at the home court much.
How much are referees home court? How much are referees?
Back in the Tim Donaghy days, a lot.
Yeah, right? You know, because if you're a good team, you get good refereeing a lot in basketball, more than any other sport.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you know, I was a big NBA fan back in the 80s, 90s, kind of, you know, the Larry Bird, Johnson, and Michael Jordan days. And as a kind of disgruntled Knicks fan, I always thought Jordan got way too much preferential treatment from the referees. Not saying he wasn't one of the best player of all time, but he always got some extra calls. Same with LeBron, he gets extra calls. So you can't really put that into the number. You just know that those stars are going to get preferential treatment. So a player like LeBron or Michael Jordan might be worth 7 points to the number, which is huge.
Well, why would that be the case? It always baffled me. I wonder. I'm not an expert at this. This is your domain. Just as a sports fan and somebody who's watched, I think it might have something to do. Does it have anything to do with the fact that there's less players on the team? So the persona of an individual in the NBA is much bigger than it is, let's say, in the NFL. Even though Brady's bigger than life, right? He's still sharing it with 40 other guys.
Right.
To an exponential number, not.
Well, you know, yeah, and you make a good point, and it is because I think the NBA has kind of turned more into this individual game. They focus when David Stern took over the league, and he did a great job building the popularity of the league, not only nationally but worldwide. He said these individuals are going to make our league. So he showcased guys like Magic and Jordan and these guys. And I wouldn't say that there was a league directive to give them preferential treatment, but it surely didn't hurt their ratings or anything. So I think it was kind of the NBA's in their best interest, let's say, to give the stars a preferential treatment. So just kind of my opinion on it. But I think there's a way it's kind of worked out. They market the NBA on the stars, on the individuals, where baseball, yes, they market the individuals, but you know, the New York Yankees or the Dodgers, it's always kind of takes the lead.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we've talked about this kind of before on some of the other shows that Frank and I were on, and Scott and I. Basketball makes it about the faces, which is why it was so almost acceptable after the initial shock for LeBron to make his team wherever he wanted to make his team. Football's the full other way. Yeah, quarterbacks are big, but it's still the team. And baseball is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like Mike Trout should be the biggest thing in the world, but he's not. And baseball is still local. Baseball is still a sport that's broadcast on your local Fox affiliate, and that's where the deal is made. And when that season's up, they're like, let's go to WPIX or whoever KRP. It's such a different animal how those teams are all built and trying to figure out how to do that. And to the point, and this goes all the way where the NBA is like, you know what we're going to do? We're still going to have an all-star game where we can show off these individual folks as opposed to let's lock this down and not go there. We're going to let that fly.
Do you think baseball maybe also hurts themselves? And by baseball, I mean the players, the owners, the officials, right from, right up the flagpole, start at the bottom, right to the top. They're not really user friendly. The strikes, all that stuff, I think it kind of takes the luster off.
Well, I know that my father is the person who got me into baseball, into the Mets. And when they missed the World Series, that was it. End of story. No more. He was done. He was like, if it's not worth it to them to play the World Series, it's not worth it for me to watch. You can't be the only person who's felt that way. And then the other thing I would add is you said the whole flagpole, and this includes the media on this one. So
Absolutely.
My children are not into sports, but if my grandchildren are into sports, I'm going to have a hard time taking them to a baseball Hall of Fame where the best pitcher I ever saw and the best hitter I ever saw and the best home run hitter I ever saw aren't there. Now, Rose I can accept, but Clemens and
Barry Bonds.
Thank you very much. And who I hated as a player are not there. And it's a little weird to go, and so, Daddy, who were the best players you saw? And no offense to you, but with Craig Biggio, yeah, he was a great player, but
yeah, right.
So that's I think that's another hole that baseball has to figure out how to manage, because again, it's not just me. Now I may be in the minority, but every few people you lose weighs in.
They can, even here during the pandemic, of all the sports, the most selfish looking athletes were the baseball players. In all the debates that owners had with players in every league, baseball stands out as an epic fail, more tarnishment.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that was really frustrating. Just as I've always been a big baseball fan. With the owners trying to make a concession and the guys like Ian Snell saying, I'm not going to settle for the 15 million or whatever it was. Like you said, it just seemed really selfish on their end and just kind of out of touch with so many Americans that are out of work, or people across the world that are suffering during the pandemic, and these guys can't agree to play a stupid game basically for a few months to kind of make everybody happy. You're right. That was really disappointing.
Now they're human, let's be clear. I'm not one of these people who just want to tear them down. It's not an individual thing. It's a group thing. And with baseball, I think baseball more than any other sport is very, how can I put this? Not as community driven. If you look at basketball is a community. It was what happened in the United States and all the stuff that happened. You saw how they gravitated together, how they became one group. You saw, and even for us, obviously football, and even for us in hockey here in Canada, they got behind what was happening. Baseball, not so much. They're a very disjointed group of athletes, more than any other sport. And I suppose that's not a criticism, that's just an observation.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think NHL did it the best. NHL and NBA when they went into the bubble. What was it? They play in Winnipeg, Frank, was it? So
Oh,
where they
Edmonton
had
and Toronto. Edmonton and
in
Toronto.
Toronto, and they did a great job. They really did, and full marks to the Canadian government to getting that and putting that together. But like you said, I think you're right. Hockey has always had more of a sense of community, and I think of football teams too kind of rally your local communities. Where baseball, it's a really kind of regional sport. It's big in New York and it's big in St. Louis, but like you mentioned, that's a very good point. It doesn't seem to really rally the community like the other sports.
They're great people. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just, I think it's the culture in baseball, and I think what we saw, we've heard from so many areas about how what we're really all about, what people are all about. The pandemic exposed it. I don't want to sound like Joe Biden. Okay, I'm not trying to, but it kind of showed. It shows who people are, and it showed that we as a culture, I'll say North America, not just Canada, not just the U.S., where at least we had the appreciation of the people out there that were doing things, many of which don't earn the most money, and showed them respect and appreciation. So it showed us, in North America, to be appreciative of people that we really don't have to be appreciative. I mean, all I have to do is throw my money on the counter and take the food I'm buying. You know what I mean? But it's nice that people showered these people with appreciation, and that's something, I didn't want to make it sound like, we're going to hell in a handbasket, because it's just a cultural thing. And by culture, I don't mean race. I don't mean any of that. I mean people within groups. They become isolated. They don't really see what's going on outside. I think if baseball players understood better what they looked like with what happened, I think they would have had a better reaction.
So if I can get the producer to let me share my screen, I want to kind of completely change where we're going. Any luck with this? And I'll get the screen on in just a second. Fingers crossed. All right. This is not, I know he had some difficulties before the show, and I didn't get the chance to ask for him to give me that ability. And we'll see if he gets to it. So now, Frank, I do apologize because communications with us, you and I, broke down before the show. But we are going to hop to the Scotch part of the show. And hopefully we're going to do some tastings, Eric and I. If you know what we're drinking and you have your opinions, that'd be great. And if you happen to have something you'd like to take a sip of, that would be fine too. And again, I do apologize. I saw the email I was trying to send you did not get sent about 4 o'clock today. Again,
it's all good. It's all good.
So the show was originally around Kentucky and North Carolina basketball. So today we're going to be drinking some bourbons, and I do special out of North Carolina as well. For those who are watching, I do apologize. I may not be drinking, I will not be drinking all of my drink. I'll be having some sips. And the first bourbon that I have here is a Woodford Reserve. Eric, is that what you were able to get as well? Oh, went the full size. I just got the little 50 milliliter. I'm in a...
Eric's a serious, you're a serious man.
I like my Manhattans and a good bourbon now and then. So absolutely, it's not going to go to waste.
So now what I have here is someday this pandemic that we were just talking about is going to be over, and hopefully we can do this show in studio. So I will be also creating a me, my Scotch, and I house blend of the various things we try during the show, as long as they're not flavored. I think that's a little obtuse. So
I'm going to come right back. Give me a minute. And I can help.
Okay. All right. Now I know this one, so I'm going to go ahead and add my little bit of water to this before we start. Oh, and it looks like I am now the host. So before we do this, I'd like to, I know I'm going to
Okay, I'm
blindside
back.
you. I'm going to blindside both you guys here with the fashion portion of the show. Again, we're dealing with guys out of Kentucky and Duke, and these are two guys who I think have fantastic but different styles. And we'll start with Mr. Tyler Hero and what he was wearing when he got drafted. Now, obviously, this guy has I hope you've seen my screen. Oh, no, not yet. You'll see Tyler Hero here in a beautiful flowered jacket with a nice watch. Just let your guys input on Mr. Hero's early career attire.
Pretty loud.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I know
Tyler,
I couldn't pull that off. I know that.
No, he
Oh, I
was,
know. I couldn't pull it off. I might be able to pull it off if it was silk,
yes.
bland color, right?
So,
It's a good call.
yes. Speaking of silk in the loud color, when you're walking on South Street in your Tyler Hero, that is exactly what you do. Like this, I wouldn't even try to pull off when I was 20. But he does a good job with the skinny jeans and the wide open shirt. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Sure, if you're what is he, 21-year-old NBA star living in Miami? Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely. Now, this next gentleman, so was out of Duke, and when he entered the NBA, he entered in a much, much more reserved way. Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Kyrie Irving. Now him, typical, very nice outfit, completely conservative. But this is your big day, and we know how big some of these guys go. I personally think he could have had a nicer tie knot. Somebody could have helped him come up with something a little better and more unique. And he
looked like a Robin Hood employee.
Yes, there you go. But Kyrie eventually grew, and this outfit. If Kyrie Irving is listening to the show, I want this jacket. I think I can wear this jacket. He's got great socks, and I like his shoes. Thoughts?
I'm with you on the jacket. By the way, do you want to know what I'm drinking? Can you guess what I'm drinking?
Canadian whiskey. I can't see it on my little screen.
Looks like a Jose Cuervo.
Yes, it is.
Eric and I go back a very long way, and all I can say is Eric knows why I don't drink tequila.
Yeah, if this show was named Me, My Tequila and I would not appear. I've had a rough history with tequila, and nobody can attest to it as well. So
Yes.
For me, it was when I was in the younger days. It was what's it called? Jeepers Creepers. Real sweet alcohol.
Mad Dog 2020.
What?
Mad Dog 2020.
No, not Mad Dog 2020. You know what?
Southern Comfort?
Yes. Thank you, sir. Well, that stuff was mean.
Yeah.
Before we get to our full-on alcohol conversation, I have one more picture I'd like to share. And again, it's Kyrie. And this is my favorite outfit that I'm sharing today. I got red. He's got red. He figures out a way to make his red shoes work with that beautiful tartan scarf. He grew into his fashion, I must say. Final thoughts on our fashion?
Red works.
Red work.
Yeah, again, I'm pretty conservative by my attire, so I couldn't pull off the red shoes, but yeah, he looked sharp.
Yeah, I mean, he does conservative with the splash there, and that's really what I like. It's like just a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah, this is not a MAGA hat. It's a CFL hat. Just want to make sure we make that distinction.
Good.
It's a red hat, and the microphone's red too. So
Okay.
I'm
Won't hold it
really-
against you.
I'm not surprised. I really like it because I know it well. How's your Woodford treating you there, Eric?
Nice and smooth. Thanks.
Excellent. And Frank, the Cuervo's working for you?
Yeah, a cap full of that'll keep me running for a while.
Excellent. Now, I'm like you.
Now, by cap full, I mean this cap.
Oh, see, I thought you meant like a capful because
Yeah, no, I meant a cap full. If I drink that much, you won't see me. I'll be out of the shot.
Because I myself also have a tiny little capacity, but I do love the flavor. So I have a second bourbon I'm going to take a sip of and a little try here. Elijah Craig, which I always pronounce Crag because I don't know why. And I went with the small batch. Eric?
Likewise.
Oh,
Small batch.
wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
But this is a new one for me, Ob, so I'm curious.
Oh, this is a great one.
Okay, good.
Myself a pour here.
Yeah, you can tell it's a great one by how long he's got it tipped.
Yes, this one has
Good point.
That one didn't get vertical very quickly.
that one definitely has served me well over the year.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
And this one I can do without the water.
Oh, you're right. That's excellent.
Definitely not as sweet, but wow, full flavor. I think
It's
they call
excellent.
that nutty.
Excellent.
Good. I'm glad I could expose you to something you enjoy.
No, I think you've made me a new Elijah Craig fan. So yeah, this is excellent.
Yes, and you got the small batch, which I think the first time I had Elijah was my friend's annual barbecue. He has it the week before Memorial Day here, so it's still a little chilly. Somebody brought that bottle, and I mean, in 10 minutes, it was gone. It was one of those bottles where everyone's like, "Give me a second. Wait, what happened to that bottle?" It's definitely a strong flavor, a good flavor at that. And before I figure out what I'm actually going to finish off as my drink of the day, I do have a third option. Like I said, something special from North Carolina. Midnight Moonshine apple pie flavor. You see this and you just want to drink it out of the jar, but I think I have a little too much class. Not a lot too much class, so I'm going to move it into my own personal mason jar. Now this one's strong, 100 proof. So they say it tastes really like apple pie, but at 100 proof, I don't believe them.
What's the name of that one again, Ob?
This is Midnight Moonshine apple pie flavor.
Interesting.
It was hard to find something out of North Carolina. I kept looking and looking. Ooh, that smells really sweet.
It looks like a moonshine that you'd pick up on some backwoods highway from.
Well, when I first saw it, I don't know if anyone ever watched. I can't think of the name of the show or the guy who was in it anymore. So Margot Robbie was in it for one season, and it was a Western with Timothy Oliphant and Walt Goggins.
Deadwood, was it?
No, it was what he did after. He did another Western after Deadwood, but in it, not Margaret. She serves him or everybody apple cider moonshine when she's going to murder them.
Do they know that before they get the drink, or is it something that sort of creeps up on them like the alcohol?
They do not all know that. We as the audience know it, and at the end of the show, as opposed to go to jail, he sits down and they share a drink, and she has the apple cider and he does not. Because
Wow.
she was an old head in the town, and et cetera, et cetera.
Interesting.
Oh, and I will say this, surprisingly, it's super sweet, almost cloyingly sweet, but no bite at all. This is the kind of drink that you were drinking when we were 20, and I don't need my son to find it because this will be the bottle. He's like, that's the one I like.
There you go. It's like when he discovered Led Zeppelin, right?
Oh, that's another Obie and I. That was another one of our favorite bands in high school. We would,
Yes.
Led Zeppelin 3 we'd listen to, Houses of the Holy, all, we'd spend days listening to that.
All day and night. My son actually he enjoys some Led Zeppelin. My wife likes Immigrant Song. Hint, she's a Marvel MCU fan. But my boys, both of them do like a lot of classic rock, and the oldest is a huge Beatles fan. He's a bigger Beatles fan than I am, but not his grandparents. Yeah, loves the Beatles.
We were lucky. We were lucky here in Toronto because I guess you know who Rush is, right?
Of course, yes.
They channeled Led Zeppelin. Geddy Lee did Robert Plant better than Robert Plant. And the clubs here, that's what they were. They were the Led Zeppelin band.
Yeah, and another just band that was so good live, Rush. I mean, I've seen some of their live performances. They're better live. They made you want to go see them in person. And
They were,
Lee, Neil Peart, and I mean, just you couldn't top them live.
In the 70s, in the late 70s, early 70s, late 70s, the band, I assume it was everywhere, not just Toronto, because everything's trendy, right? Back then, a lot of the greatest music in the 70s, people could just go walk into a bar and they'd see, people like Gordon Lightfoot here in Toronto. You would see a lot of great talent that it was amazing. The 70s was the most productive musically speaking. And if anyone wants to doubt it, there are grandkids and children of people that appreciate it and come running to the house and go, "Dad, you gotta check this group. They're called Pink Floyd. Wow, they're amazing."
Why do you guys think that? And I agree wholeheartedly that the music from the 60s and 70s has kind of transcended through. And I don't know. I hate to sound like the old guy on the lawn kind of thing, but current music just doesn't seem to have the kind of soul that was in the 70s and 60s and the musicianship. Why do you guys think that?
I do not truly know. I do know this in my heart of hearts, that the Beatles are different than the rest of them in that the Beatles are like Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, that generational sound. And I think that because of how good the Beatles are, the closer you are to the Beatles, the more of a lift you kind of get. And that that doesn't mean that tomorrow somebody isn't going to come around that's going to be that next amazing take over the music scene person. But I think it has to do with how close to the Beatles you are because of how amazing they were.
I have a theory, Eric. It's one that I've given a lot of thought. I worked in record stores. Music was a big part of my life. And I just believe that simply back then it was all about the music. Everything was about the music. The artists, they snuck up on the world. People like the Beatles, especially, they snuck up on the world and they were able to do, what they thought was great. The innovation, the ingenuity, all that stuff in music in the 70s ended up being, well, the old saying, they started to sell out, right? Back then, you wouldn't have seen a Honda commercial with a rock song or a song, and I hate to say it, but that's essentially what it is. It became part of the corporate structure of music. And it's, and the backlash, I even attribute it to the discussions about vinyl as opposed to digital. There are people who swear up and down vinyl sounds better than digital. So it's all about, I think it was not an innocent time because, man, there was a lot of anger back then. Right. And in the music too, there was a lot of anger, but it was honest social anger, so everything about the 70s music was a reflection of the basic principles of life at that time, as opposed to where today, we live in a world where it's posturing, and the music postures too.
Yeah. No, and even my wife is Venezuelan and she's a big reggaeton fan. And, she even says that the music she grew up with in the 80s had a lot more soul, and the musicians could do their, kind of got their chops playing live, you know, and
Right.
it wasn't this studio produced kind of era we're in now. And I think that's a kind of a big element to it.
That's an
A lot
excellent
of
point.
yeah, a lot of today's musicians really rely on kind of the studio produced sound, where guys like the Beatles and Clapton and those guys back in the day, I mean, they could just walk on a bar, you know, in any bar, stage, anywhere, and just knock your socks off live, kind of thing. So,
Well, and Germany had a real good treat because that's where the Beatles started, and those clubs in Germany had the good fortune of being a part of what made the Beatles.
This show can be heard on Spanglish World Radio Network. Please check out the https spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. I also think that now a lot of the songs are written overseas, and that's not an issue with overseas. It's an issue that it's factory produced music. That not that the folks aren't talented, but they're just banging it out as opposed to feeling the feel of what they're doing in wherever they are. And because the music is so worldwide, but you know, Gordon Lightfoot started off not only in Canada, but like he came down to America through Cleveland and just like kind of like you were an object of your place, right? And now the music is an object of the world, which you would think would be better, but sometimes it doesn't fit with everybody, and the world is all listening to the same song.
Yeah, you know, 4 words says it all to me. You know, music's not a formula. Music's not a formula. That's the transition we live in, right?
Yeah.
Music's not a formula, or is it? You know, and that's essentially the freedom, you know, that the music had in the 70s. I mean, you know, all the stuff. I worked in a record store, the most famous record store in Toronto at the time. So I had a real good chance to listen to music up close, and it was a great time.
Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Eric, thank you. Very glad to be able to share a few drinks with you. Frank, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
I'm going to get you on a one-on-one one day so that we can do this the whole time alone. And Eric, maybe looking to bring you back again as well.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you both for your time.
Likewise,
Either you
Frank.
guys
Take
have
care,
anything
guys.
you want to let the world know you're doing before we get taken off?
To me, or I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, we'll start with anything you want the world to know you're up to, Eric.
No. Just getting ready for March Madness. Hopefully, the tournament goes through smooth and no big kind of COVID interruptions. Looking forward to a fun college basketball tournament. Thanks again for having me on.
You're welcome. And Frank, I know you're all over the network.
Yeah, I gotta go have a nap now.
Cheers, guys. Salute.
Salute.
Salute you too.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.